Hey guys, Goldi here, Commissioner of the ABL. Today we're going to talk a little bit about finances in-game, specifically as it relates to the ABL. I'll share some thoughts with you on how I look at my finances, and hopefully some of the information I share with you, you will find helpful within your own current situation. So first, let's take a quick look at bobblehead Goldi. I've added him as a pitcher within the game. Handsome man, great teeth, by the way. I'm not sure why he's doing the swing and bunt, but it is what it is. I also think I've changed my owner as well. There he is. Tall, dark, and handsome and thin. This is great. So I really appreciate it, guys. Definitely a big surprise and unexpected. And like to show my gratitude for the thought, and really appreciate it. So let's move on here. Finances. So the first thing you want to do is you hit the team front office button, which is the $sign, and you'll come to a page that looks like this. Now I've changed some of the screens here that I normally use just for this video so we could focus on just the finances. And for those that may not know, you can do that by hitting these pointing down chevrons and selecting any of the one available areas that you'd like to display on your screen. So you can modify each one of these 9 boxes. Now I did get some comments from one of my past videos on how I'm able to show so many screens within one screenshot. For instance, here in my transaction screen I have 9 windows. I think this has to do with the resolution of my monitor, so you may want to play with your own settings to see how best you can optimize the equipment you have to display what you'd like to see. I like to have everything in front of me on one page, less back and forth, much quicker, much more efficient. Anyway, back to the primary discussion point, which is finances. So the first thing, looking at Maple, my team, is the financial summary. And the areas we're going to focus on are 2 areas: money for free agents and money for extensions. How does the game internally look at the figures available to determine these values? And what can you do as the GM to impact these numbers? Because they can change based on your decisions. It's never too late to have an adjustment in both areas. So I'll share some of that information with you. So first thing, let's take a look at money for free agents. That is determined by taking a look at your projected expenses for the year, which can still change, compared to the available budget, which is not going to change for this year, your available cash, which can still change, and subtracting the 2 to come up with a difference. Obviously, if you have more cash and budget available than your expenses, you will be able to go shopping. And in my case, I have the availability of just over 1.5 million. So where do these numbers come from? Let's take a look at the expenses. First thing is total expenses to date. We haven't even started the season. How can I have expenses? Well, in the window directly below, expenses, it shows year to date what I've spent the $1,020,000 on. First is player payroll, $1 million. So I obviously cut a player that had a salary guaranteed for 2030, and I took the salary hit, which was $1 million in this case. The second was the staff payroll, $20,000. So I upgraded a coach that had a guaranteed contract, most likely from my A-ball or newly formed rookie ball league, and I took the hit of $20,000. So when you add these 2 numbers, you get the $1,020,000. Remaining expenses, that's estimated $230 million and change. And then allocated budget space. These are the items like draft, international, amateur free agent budgets, scouting, and player development. This number is pretty much fixed. I'll explain how it can still change even though we passed the preseason and have entered spring training. And this, when you add it all up, gives you a negative, or in red, of $234 million. So let's take a look at where these two numbers come from. So go to your accounting screen, focus on the projected 2030 column, and you can see if I add up these two numbers, clear it out, 224.415 plus 7.54, I come up with 231,955. So if I go back, that is going to be these two numbers added up. So so if I subtract 230.935 equals 102. So that's where this value comes from. Now where's the 2.5 coming from? That is from my draft expenses, which I've locked in. And that can still change because I may offer less money to my drafted players this year. So it can still change, but likely will not exceed this unless I have a projected balance in the green, allowing me to spend a little bit more money. But right now this value is fixed until the draft. Scouting expenses, that's fixed. I'm not going to participate in that. Last year I spent $22.5 million. Player development, that's fixed. I'm not spending any money in player development. Last year I spent $15 million. And I don't plan on partaking on international amateur free agency. Last year I spent $5.4 million. Now that could still change if I'm able to get my projected balance in the green. I may be able to play a little bit here, but most likely not. And then miscellaneous player expenses. That is players that you buy out that have a guaranteed salary for 2031. So looking at my salary listing, if I had released Victor Rocher, and I won't, but if I did, I would eat $1.1 million of his guaranteed salary in 2031, and that would show up under miscellaneous player expenses. So this is the 234 and change million dollars that we're talking about. So we go back and you can see that value here. Now let's take a look on the budget side. Current budget $246 million. That is not going to change. It's fixed. Even though it shows up in the projected column, that is fixed. My cash minus $10 million. That can still change. I can acquire money in a trade by trading a prospect or an existing roster player. This value can still change. And when you take the difference between the total expenses estimated and the total incoming money based on current budget less the cash or plus the cash, you end up with a net of 1545. So we take our handy dandy little calculator. I think that came from Blue's Clues. Let's see, so we take 234.455, we subtract 246, and we get minus 11,545. Then I have the 10 million. And that's how I end up with 1545 as money for free agents. So what can I do to impact that? Well, back to the accounting screen. I can't change this for this year. I can change my cash. So if I acquire money, again, that could help increase the money I have available for a free agent. So let's say I wanted to go shopping and bid on a player that is seeking a contract somewhere like $2 million this year, and I had to free up about $500,000. And these areas are now grayed out: player development, scouting expenses, international, amateur, free agent. What else can I do? Well, one area is I could acquire cash. The other areas, I can cut my player expenses. I could look at a player that is making about $500,000 in 2030, like Federico. No offense to Federico and his family, but if I had a free agent that I was eyeing that is more value than Federico, I could eat his 710 right now, and by trading him to a team, assuming someone would want him, and that would free up 710. I couldn't just cut him, because if I cut him, this money is guaranteed. So you have to be careful in that area. Okay. Hello, Goldi. How you doing? He's always smiling, by the way. And again, I don't know why I'm doing the swing and bunt. My team was #1 in homers, so I should be doing a power stance, but it's okay. Back to finances here again. Let's take a look at money for extensions. The issue here is I have none. That means I can't extend any of my players that are up for renewal in 2031. And this is because my projected expenses are greater than my projected budget, plus or minus whatever cash I have on hand. So in this case, I'm negative $8.5 million. Now, what can I do to fix that? I look at my next year's column. This number is estimated right now, so it's predicting a drop-off. So I can improve my play on the field. I can improve my financial situation to show a positive result here. I can improve my cash situation. Again, trading a player to acquire cash, that would help. And then in terms of my expenses, what can I do? I can trade a contracted player for 2031 to reduce this amount. Staff expenses, not much I can do right now because all the contracts are guaranteed and you can't trade coaches. And my draft expenses. Right now, there's nothing I can do because it's pulled forward whatever I'm using this year for next year, which kind of sucks, but that's how it works. So there's no way to eliminate this amount. So those are some areas that you can do to free up some money to re-sign a valuable player that is up for extension. So for instance, let's say Ronaldo Gonzalez meant the world to me, and his contract is up for renewal in 2031 as a potential free agent. I would need to free up some money to afford whatever his contract demand is. So if I click on the player, I go to available options, and I go to offer extension. This guy's looking at $1.3 million. Probably can get him for a little bit less, but I'm going to need at least, let's say, $1 million. And right now, I'm minus almost $9 million in the hole. So to re-sign Ronaldo, I need to find somewhere in the area of about $10 million to free up. So that's how it works. If you have any questions about any of the information I shared on this video, please just write back and I'll be able to help you. The last thing I want to focus on is the revenue estimate for this year and how you can predict where you're going to finish for the end of the year. So one of the key points here is gate revenue. That is estimated for you this year based on your team and the outlook the game thinks for your team based on your current ticket prices. So right now it's showing a significant fall off for me under gate revenue. Meanwhile, my season ticket revenue, which is now locked because I can't adjust my season ticket price because winter meetings are over, it's showing a significant improvement in that area for me of about $11 million, while I have a drop off of about, say, $18 million on gate revenue. So the net effect is I go from 198 to from 205. So it's about a $7 million drop off. Also, playoff revenue. It hasn't used that at all. So no projection that you're going to make the playoffs. You might think you're going to make the playoffs and it's an automatic, but the game doesn't give you that benefit. So it's important to understand that this is a wild card. If you feel you're going to make it, you may be able to roll the dice a little bit here and assume that you're going to have equal or maybe a little bit more if you think you can go deeper in the playoffs, money available on the revenue side. Media revenue is probably not going to change, if any. You can see next year it's projected to drop a little bit with the drop of budget, but it's not a big number. In this case, $500,000. Merchandising revenue, that does change slightly year to year, but again, it's usually less than 5% change, so don't expect tremendous slide or tremendous gain there. It's pretty consistent. So these areas you have to be on the lookout for on the incoming side. So if you take a look at my finances, you can see my season tickets. My season tickets projected are up 8.6%, which is great. However, my attendance per game is going down by about 10% or 11% here, giving me a net reduction in my revenue per game. So if I play better on the field than what the game thinks, if I slightly probably reduce my ticket price, I probably can get this number to optimize a little bit. But I never panic in this area. I'd let the game run based on the numbers it has. And if I end up on a hot streak, and I'm especially playing division games, I usually try to bump this up 25 cents at a time to see how much peanut butter I can pump through a straw, as they say in the rotating equipment industry. Let's go back here and look at expenses. Again, player expenses, that's estimated based on current status quo, but this can change. You could still hire a coach. You could sign a free agent. You can take a player that has a contract off waivers. You could trade a player to acquire salary. You could trade player or players to reduce salary. So a lot of this can still change. But right now, my projected balance is in the negative for this year. If I make the playoffs like I did last year, then all of a sudden this 5.9 will turn green, assuming I play 4 games in the playoffs and get swept again and make about the same amount of money. The difference between 8-8 coming in and the 5.9 that is showing as a negative would magically give me $3 million as a profit. So things can still change. The other wild card here is the revenue sharing. Right now it's assuming, based on last year's results, where this number comes from, it can still change based on the amount of money I bring in and a lot of other factors like the performance of the 24th revenue earning team. So 61.5 million is the current projection used, which is based on last year. It's probably not going to be the same. You can see the year before it was 82 million and it dropped. I showed in yesterday's video that based on a 24-team league, there was a benefit, if everything stayed status quo from last year, of somewhere between 3.7 million and 5.3 million for each team. So everything being even and everything stays the same, this number for me would drop to about 56 million. And that would also give me some improvement in this area on top of the numbers that I've already showed. So a lot of things are happening dynamic. Do not panic. That's the worst thing you can do. Educate yourself on what you have coming in, what you have coming out, and take a look at some opportunities to improve your situation all the time. The game is about winning championships, no doubt, but it's also about stability on the finance side to ensure that you're consistently able to keep the players you love, sign the players you want, and make those deals needed to push you over the top come the trade deadline. So again, hopefully this video helped you. I appreciate all the support and love from all the members of the league. I think this year is going to be an exciting season. We have a lot of exciting changes to the league that I'm looking forward to, and I'm excited for spring training, which kicks off on Saturday, and it looks like Quebec. Bonjour, Monsieur Francois is coming to Maple. So we'll talk to you later. Take care.